successful couple.
Here are your hosts, Nick
And know what it's like to commit a crime without having to spend time in jail.
and Enrique Alvarez Clearing. Brought to you by Empire Fence and Netting on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome in. Happy Thursday. We're almost to Friday. Husker football has concluded practice number 3. We got to check it out for 40 minutes or so. So we'll definitely talk about that here in a moment. Nick Sainert, not Rico. Across from me, it's Austin Orman as Rico is heading down to Lawrence, Kansas for the WNIT in Nebraska and the Kansas Jayhawks tonight. So I'm sure he'll tweet out stuff. You can check out what his seat is like in the fog. You ever seen a game in the fog?
I have. Best basketball experience of my life.
Same here. I went to a Kansas State game.
Ooh.
I went to a Sunflower show.
Was it the one that Mikhaili traveled in?
It was the – what it would have been 3 years ago? 3 years ago. 4 years ago. Something like that. It was – I'm not going to lie. It was not the most memorable experience, unfortunately. But it was outside of – I remember exactly what Lawrence looks like. I just don't remember a whole lot about the basketball game, unfortunately. Here we are, though. 402-464-5685. The Honda Lincoln Hotline, the Starter Heyman text line, both those for you guys. We've got a lot coming up on the show today. Austin, I need your help. You're a baseball guy. Okay? So I need to know who to draft tonight in my fantasy baseball. I'm attempting this fantasy baseball league. And I love baseball, but I'm not sure how fantasy baseball works.
I've only played once in my life.
Okay.
For about 2 weeks before I gave up on it.
Okay, because that's how I was with the NBA. And because I did like this NBA fantasy basketball league, and I gave up about a week and a half because I was like, I can't step my lineup every day. So that was tough. I just found out that it's 12 teams,
okay,
and I have the 12th pick.
Oh no!
So
you at least get the 12th and 13th. Okay.
So Jose Ramirez is not going to be available, but I want to take Jose Ramirez. Real bad,
be a good one. You can get him
real bad. I have no clue. So Rico, here's the best part about it. Rico is in this league, and I'm not sure what his team name is. I need to find that out because I don't know what team name Rico is. But whenever I find out, I'm sure we'll talk plenty about it. Either way, so I think Jose Ramirez is going to be – he's not going to be available at 12. We're going to try to take him. Or we can trade up picks. We can always trade picks as well. 402-464-5685, Honda Lincoln Hotline, Starter Heyman text line. Both those open for you guys. Okay, let's start with this because I came across this yesterday about 30 minutes after the show ended, and I was annoyed because I thought, man, we could have talked about this today. So John Rothstein, everybody's favorite person in the world when it comes to March Madness, sent out this pamphlet, I suppose, that says the NCAA sent college programs this memo earlier regarding the waiver process for undergraduates who are two-time transfers. And so here we are. And it listed in it, it says that a player's waiver transfer process will be denied if, for a multitude of reasons, but the one that caught my eye was coaching change. So simply put, if a player wants to transfer because their coach either got fired, either left, whatever it may be, they will not allow them immediately to be immediately eligible because of the coaching change. So you're looking at another 2-year investment. If you're a fourth-year guy and on your final year, you want to get out of there because Providence and Ed Cooley's a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
Great example. Same with like I don't want to say Jalen Pickett. Somebody at Penn State with Micah Shrewsbury, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where at a place like Penn State as well, I'm not sure the caliber of coach they're going to be able to fill the shoes of Micah Shrewsbury. And so you're not looking at an NCAA tournament next year if you're Penn State.
No.
And so if you're one of those players on that team, you just tasted March Madness and you have a good body of work, and especially if you played a decent role on that team, you have an opportunity to go somewhere that is a March Madness caliber of team. But now you're not going to be able to because the NCAA doesn't want to grant you a waiver next season because of a coaching change. It's kind of bonkers in my mind.
It goes back to the problem we've seen across college athletics is that coaches are as free to move as they want to be, but the players aren't always. And, one of the issues with the transfer portal is that it seems like student athletes are hopping in willy-nilly for, some flimsy reasons. A coaching change is not a flimsy reason.
Yeah.
As much as we want student athletes to commit to a university that it's a place they want to spend, whether it's, college basketball 1 year, college baseball 3 years, college football 3 to 4 years, whatever it is. We can all want that. We can all set that up there as the ideal, but that's not the day and age. That's not the era anymore. The other thing to keep in mind is something that I don't know personally, having never been recruited, but I hear Strick talk about it. I hear Kenny talk about it. I hear Jay talk about it all afternoon. The importance of relationships in recruiting, because coaching change, we think of the head coach, but if the head coach is fired, you're like, those assistants are looking for jobs too. So as much as the relationship between head coach and player is important, so are the assistant coaches. So if none of those people are going to be back next year and relationships are 50%, if not more, of what sways a recruit to a school, that's taking that kid's future that they've envisioned, just tearing it up right in front of their eyes.
So, for example here, and I don't know if this is trying to salvage programs from losing a group of guys, if that's what this decision is for. But a great example is Bryce Hopkins at Providence. Okay, forward Bryce Hopkins leaves Kentucky, goes to Providence, averages, I want to say, close to 16 points per game this season. Providence makes the tournament. They end up winning in one game and then getting bounced. And now Ed Cooley leaves. And since he already used his one-time transfer from Kentucky to Providence, he can't transfer again without suffering a penalty. And that's ridiculous in my mind because you have a guy in Ed Cooley or you have a guy in Micah Shrewsbury or even Rick Pitino for that matter, that they just go scot-free with no penalty. They get major compensation for it as well. And it's just another day. It's just another day. There was no, hey, coach, listen, I'm not saying this is what it needs to be, but if you want to talk about, I guess consistency across the board from whether you're an assistant, whether you're a player, whether you're a coach. All right, coach, listen, you changed jobs twice now in the last 4 years. You got to sit out a season. That's what we're saying, right? You want to start paying these guys NIL and attracting them to schools through NIL money, right? Nigel Pack at Kansas, we just talked about it. Nigel Pack goes to Miami simply for the 2-year, $800,000 NIL deal that he made with John Ruiz, the biggest booster in Miami. And so now we're treating this as a job, which we know it always has been. Like that's how it's viewed. We know that. And so now NIL is just making it more public than it is that. And so here we are. Now it's not in the terms of $9 million or $15 million or however much money is being paid to these coaches. But if you want to allow the player or force the player to sit out a year or however much amount of time, why are the coaches just getting off scot-free, like I said?
If it's a job for the coach, it's taking up that same amount of time for the athlete because that's what they're investing their time in. That's what they're investing their future in.
And once again, like that's like on the way end of the spec, like way on the other end of this conversation of like, you should suspend the coaches for, like, I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm calling for. But to some extent, if you want to treat these guys like college basketball is their job, in which we're viewing that as now that guys can go basically get paid to play. And this can be the same for college football, college basketball. It can be the same conversation across all sport. But, you're sitting here going, Lincoln Riley didn't have any penalty, but players did. The players aren't. I mean, we were starting to see that money talks, and we've always known it, but we're starting to see it here with Lincoln Riley, with you could even say Micah Shrewsbury.
Mhm.
But why are these coaches going to these other schools? And what's now included in contracts? NIL commitment. Why? Because NIL brings players to programs. But you can pay the dude, you could pay Bryce Hopkins from Providence any amount of NIL money, but no matter what, he's got to sit out a year if he wants to go to Georgetown to follow Ed Cool.
Mhm. Coaches and players have to be treated the same in some ways, but not in every way. We know
That's true.
coaches are
That's
going to make more money. That's just the nature of it. That's how the system's gone. It's going to be hard to knock those coaching salaries down. Players now starting to get paid, in some cases. That's good. That's a step in the right direction. But we know that it's never going to be a one-to-one coaching staff to roster dollar. It shouldn't be. It doesn't have to be.
I'm not sure you want it
No,
to be either,
you don't.
yeah.
But in some cases, too, you have to balance player welfare with them's the breaks. Sometimes stuff is out of your control in life. You commit to a coach at mid-major school or a lower Power 5 school. You have a successful year. Again, the nature of the business, I hope the players don't begrudge the coach for taking a quote-unquote better job.
Yeah.
You want them to stay, but again, if the coach has that opportunity to take a better job, hopefully you have the opportunity to have played yourself into that position too. But how do you balance letting those players transfer for situations out of their control without punishing them too harshly for breaks they couldn't see coming?
So it says for the undergrads, the only way that waivers will be considered for student athletes who transfer, there's 3 of them. Number 1, for reasons related to the student athlete's mental health and well-being. Number 2, due to exigent circumstances outside the student athlete's control. And then in parentheses, it says physical or sexual assault or discrimination based on a protected class. Or third, circumstances involving diagnosed education impacting disabilities. So once again, you could put the coaching change under number 2 due to exigent circumstance outside of the student athlete's control. Name something that is farther outside the student athlete's control than their head coach taking more money at another university. And then as the student athlete, not being involved in the coaching selection either on who's going to lead their next program.
So it depends on how the NCAA defines exigent circumstances, because in a lot of cases, that's meant to be something that requires immediate attention. And I get from the player's standpoint where, hey, this is my future. I need to find some place to go to college, to play basketball, to play baseball, to play football, whatever. This has to be my immediate focus and attention right now. I can also understand from the NCAA's side of things where, okay, sorry, your coach left. It happens all the time. Pump the brakes, finish the semester. There will be a place for you. What we're finding, though, more often than not against the NCAA's case in that aspect is that these spots fill up fast. You enter the transfer portal, you better have a spot or be talking to someone, because players go fast and coaches fill spots fast.
And also when you have a new coach, a lot of the times we're talking about so far through the first 12 or 13 minutes of this conversation, we've talked about the player side and them wanting to leave. A lot of times it works the same way with a new athletic director and coaches. They don't want that coach there. They want their guys. Same way with coaches and players. They don't want guys that they might not have hand selected. So now here you are. Hey, I'm Fred Hoiberg, I'm the new head coach in Nebraska, and I come in after replacing them and say, listen, you guys went 7-25 last year. I don't want you guys. Let me pick my own guys. Let me get my own guys. We got hundreds of people in the transfer portal to choose from that are my hand selected guys. Well, just because I as the coach send them out to the portal, and now they can't get a waiver because of my choice. So, I mean, there's 2 sides of this. And Jeremy the Grillmaster on the text line 402-464-5685 says the comparison between coaches and players being treated equally is getting old. It is the coach's job, the player's education. The players should be more careful in the contract they sign. If a young man or woman of the same age decides to sign a contract with the U.S. military, they're held to that standard. I don't want to compare those two things because one is serving the country, one is playing a game. I would also say we just reiterated that it's okay that coaches and players aren't getting treated equally. But when it's something like this, to where once again, exigent circumstance that is completely out of the player's control, when you have all these other factors, NIL, and now the transfer portal available to help these players, now you're going to put the axe on it?
And there's a difference between the idea and the reality.
Yeah.
What we want to happen in a lot of cases is that they are student athletes, that it is about the degree and, oh, you get to play football while you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing, though. It's not like high school. College athletics is a step up from high school. It's not treated the same way. College basketball, you're there for 1 year if you're a top prospect. You're there for 1 year. You can't tell me it's about the school. And now, if you're supposed to be a one and done.
Why is the G League
right.
I mean, that's exactly why the G League is now growing for high school basketball players.
Right. So say you're one and done who has a bad freshman year. You transfer. Okay. Things still aren't going that well. Like maybe Emily Bates, for example. Yeah. Okay. He transfers away from a situation that wasn't the best for him to one closer to home, boosts his stock. What if he wants to transfer again? Okay. The first one, a little bit out of his control with the team he went into and how Penny Hardaway used him. Maybe a bad example. I don't know. But here's the thing. The main point is there's an ideal that we want this to live up to. And there are some people working from the ideal. This is what it should be. This is what kids should be there for. What we've seen, though, is that the reality is different. What some people want student athletes to be there for isn't what all student athletes are there for. Some of them are there to be athlete students. That's the reality. And those, in a lot of cases, are the ones that are transferring. The ones that want more playing time, which you can't begrudge them. The ones that, they'll figure out what they want to do later, but they want the best shot they have to play professional athletics, not professional school, not to sit in an office job. So you have to balance very carefully, how do we get closer to the ideal of making this as good as we can for schools, for coaches, and for players? But you have to acknowledge what the reality is first to start working towards that.
Well, I also think that maybe the reality is we're never going to find an ideal scenario.
Correct.
Right? I mean, NIL came into effect in July 1st of 2021, and here we are almost 2 whole years later saying, yeah, we have an idea of what it is, but do we really have an idea of what it is?
And that's on the NCAA.
Oh, 100%. I mean, because this can work into a conversation we can have in the next segment, because some federal guys and some legislature sent a letter to the federal government talking about international NIL rules. And now with the NCAA tournament going on, you see this opportunity. I just ran through the numbers with Rico yesterday on how many people are watching these games.
Yeah.
How many people are paying attention and investing in these athletes? And because you're Keisei Tominaga from Japan, you can't. Or if Nebraska football made or the college football playoff, and just because you were born in Germany, Nuri Nuili can't. I understand, and we got this text like there has to be rules. Brian says there has to be rules. It's already a free for all with NIL, and that's fine. But
what are the rules?
I also sit here and I'm like, it's a free for all with NIL. We know it's a free for all. Why not just let it be a free for all? Like as annoying as that would be, or on the other side, have a ton of restrictions and have it really difficult to obtain. And I don't care which way you go, just be consistent with it.
Mm-hmm. Pick one and stick to it.
Yes, because I'm not saying that I want a free for all. I'm not saying that I want. Once again, it goes back to what we just said. You're never going to find an ideal scenario. No. NIL is great. NIL is fantastic for student athletes. There are fixes that need to be had, absolutely. And now you have it come out with, once again, a guy who transferred from Kentucky to Providence, boosted his stock, and this is not him being like, listen, I don't want to be at Providence. That's not it. It's I want to be with Coach Cooley. Same way Husker football players wanted to be with Mickey Joseph. That's it. That's it. It's the same exact way. And so we always talk about how it's like, oh yeah, Bryce Hopkins, you should make that commitment to the university. You should make it to Providence. But he left Kentucky
Kentucky.
Yes, to better himself at Providence, and he did so, averaging 16 or so a game, ends up making the NCAA tournament. And now his coach just leaves in a situation that I'm not sure a lot of people thought was possible since Cooley is from where Providence is at in his alma mater, right? But he ends up leaving to Georgetown, and unfortunately, Bryce Hopkins and the rest of the crew are just kind of stuck. Now, fortunately enough for Bryce Hopkins, since he's stuck at Providence, the coach is probably going to want him. The next coach is going to want him because he's one of their best players. But if you're that new coach, how much do you want a kid that doesn't want to be there?
Or if you're that player, how much you want to be there, how much you give if you don't buy into the new coach.
Yeah. Because and that's going to cause a lot of, thoughts of, well, they need to commit to the university and not the coach. That's just not where we're at. Unfortunately. I mean, that's just not where we're at anymore. Some guys, yes, like the Garrett Nelsons of the world, you cheer for them harder than ever because of that. And you relish and you're pumped for that. And it's a great story. But as Austin was talking about earlier, the reality of it is that's just not the case.
Not as often as we want it to be.
Especially when you have so much parity in college sports now.
Yes.
And it's so much parity. And now with the transfer portal, teams that were bad 2 years ago can be really good in 2 years. And that's just the truth of it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to break. When we come back, we'll talk a little more about this. Get your thoughts on the other side. Got plenty of stuff to get to rest of the way. I do want to touch a little bit on Husker football because we got to see practice for the first time under Matt Rule today. Recruits were already here. Malachi Coleman was here. Jaden Doss was here. A couple signees as well that's going to join the team here later this season as well. So a lot of excitement surrounding the Husker football program. Give us your thoughts. 402-464-5685. We'll get to them all coming up after this on 93.7 Ticket and ticketfm.com.
Follow Nick and Enrique on Twitter at Nick_Sainert and at Radio Rico AC. More of Happy Hour is next on 93.7 The Ticket and the ticketfm.com.
Mary Ellen's food for the soul. It's soul food right here in Lincoln. Ribs, wings, catfish, coleslaw, cornbread, grits. I mean, I'd say it's food like your grandma used to make, but my grandma never made food like that. If you haven't already, you've got to give it a try. Station across from South 27th and Pine Lake, or find their food truck at events all over town, or visit them online at maryellens.com to see the full menu. Mary Ellen's food for the soul. Let them to a plate.
Nebco is hiring CDL drivers for Ready Mix Concrete, Husk Concrete, and Beatrice Concrete. Nebco offers great pay, medical, and retirement benefits, paid time off, and we pay for CDL training. Apply today to earn an average total compensation of $50,000 to $60,000 for first-year driving. From Nebco's beginnings in 1908, it's the employees that have formed the company's solid foundation. Start your career today. Visit nebcoinc.com. That's NEBCOINC.com.
Hey there.
Hi, honey.
Uh-oh.
Remember we told Jamie and Mike about Liberty First Credit Union? How great their checking account and car loans are, the amazing service we get, and how we love being members?
Yeah.
Well, they took our advice. Jamie said how easy it was to move all their accounts and become members. Now they say they're banking with purpose at Liberty First Credit Union.
Learn more about being a member at libertyfirstcu.com. Liberty First Credit Union. Banking with purpose. Member NCUA. Are you looking for a solid, stable career in assembly, CNC machining, or injection molding? We got you covered. Hi, Bob Williams, HR Director for Garner Industries, a world-class manufacturer with a 70-year history right here in Lincoln. And I just listed some great career opportunities that you can find by logging into GarnerIndustries.com. If you want top pay, excellent benefits, flexible work hours, and the opportunity to work in a clean, modern, air-conditioned facility with great people, contact me today by applying online at GarnerIndustries.com.
Problem gambling affects millions of Americans daily, of all ages and walks of life. If your loved one is struggling with addiction, contact Choices Treatment Center's 24-hour helpline at 402-476-2300. That's 402-476-2300.
At first, I was really nervous and intimidated to buy a ring. I wasn't sure what I was getting into.
My experience at Starter Heyman was very easy. I felt like I walked out of Starter Heyman with the ring that was going to make her go wow and say yes.
I love my ring. It is so beautiful. absolutely love my ring. I get compliments on it all the time. I always tell them Starter Heyman. Yeah, we would definitely recommend Starter Heyman.
Yeah, it was great.
We're definitely coming back.
Sutter Heyman Jewelers, in Grand Island. SutterHeyman.com.
March is a month of good luck. From epic runs in state basketball to watching Cinderella spring the upset in college basketball. And of course, St. Patrick's Day. Luck is on your side at Mullen Motors too, because their lot is full of great vehicles to take home. Come check out their lot just north of 48th and Layton and find your next ride, as summer road trips are just around the corner. Your luck starts this month at Mullen Motors.
Taglines: quality vehicles, Mullen Motors.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Brought to you by Bryant Air Conditioning, Heating, Electrical, and Plumbing.
Mostly cloudy skies, cool conditions here for our Thursday with a high of around 48. Winds out of the north-northeast and around 10 to 15. Partly cloudy tonight with the low dropping down to around 31. We'll see a chance of scattered showers tomorrow with highs back up to around 53. I'm meteorologist Tim Wright for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hey, it's Nicklin Hames from Nebraska Volleyball. I hate wasting time in practice, and I want to help you stop wasting your time when you're looking for an electrician. High Electric has been serving the area for over 30 years for both residential and commercial properties. They are experts in everything like remodeling, new additions, hot tub installation, and more. And they take jobs from Beatrice to Omaha and all towns, big or small, in between. Call them today at 402-466-6606 or learn more at high-electric.com.
You're listening to the Happy Hour with Nick Sainert.
Unbelievable.
And Enrique Alvarez Clary.
What do you mean, you people? What do you mean, you people? Huh?
Sponsored by Empire Fence and Netting on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We're back here, Happy Hour, 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com. Nick and Austin joining you. A little bit of news out of the Husker women's basketball front really quickly. Sam Hybe has tweeted out that her college career is all finished, saying this: on Sunday, I suffered an injury that will put an end to my college career. I could not have dreamt of a better place to spend these last 5 years. I'm forever grateful for the opportunity to represent this university. There is truly no place like Nebraska. Husker Nation, continue to show out every day for these ladies like you have done for the entirety of my career. We're not done yet. Thank you to everyone who's been a part of my journey thus far. It's been one hell of a ride. Go Big Red forever. Number 4. So Sam Hybe's career as a Husker is done after she suffered, I believe it was an ankle injury on Sunday in Nebraska's WNIT win against Northern Illinois. And so, unfortunately, I want to say, I know she's pretty high up there on the assist leaders for Husker women's basketball. So she'll definitely, Sam Hybe, that is definitely be talked about. And when we talk about some of the greatest point guards at Nebraska for the women's basketball program. Okay, we got a phone call we definitely want to get to on the Honda Lincoln hotline, 402-464-5685. And it's Dave on the Honda Lincoln hotline. Dave, what's up, man?
Hey, Nick. Hey, that was a good discussion you guys had. Look, there's guys that are going to enter the portal, and they won't be selected.
Mm-hmm.
And so they probably can't go back to their same school. It's like the NBA draft. Realistically, the NBA draft, has 60 spots, but basically 50 go to USA players. There's like 90 guys that always declare for the draft because they think, or somebody told them in their camp that they should do it. And when they don't get drafted, they're stuck. They got nowhere to go. You can't go back to college and play ball, so you're probably going to have to get a job. It's the same way. Okay, I'm not saying Garrett Nelson's going to get, not drafted, but let's say he doesn't get drafted and he gets a free agent contract and he gets cut. Well, he can't go back to college and play football, so he's probably just going to go back to school and finish his degree. But there's lots of guys sometimes who they think the grass is greener on the other side, and it's not. And sometimes those guys get bad advice, and it's just, instead of sticking it out and trying to work hard, they're just going to leave. And I just wanted to call and say that's a good topic you guys had, and thanks for taking my call.
I appreciate it, Dave. And what I would say in response to that What you mentioned is a lot of the side of the transfer portal where it features guys entering the portal for the wrong reasons, right? Um, I'm not in that boat of faulting players when their coach leaves or when their group of coaches leave to say, "Hey, man, you're stuck," or "Hey, sorry, you're stuck. You can't go anywhere." I'm just not in that boat, and I don't know if I ever will be because I put myself in that position. You are X amount of miles away from home, and the one guy who is now your next father figure for, in this case, men's basketball or college football is we've talked how many times do you hear athletes speak to their coaches, whether it's position coach or whether it's head coach, as their second father figure?
He's an uncle to me.
Yes.
Something like that.
Like,
Yeah, both of them.
oh, like every day you hear, we heard it from multiple Nebraska recruits about talking about our very own Bill Bush and Mickey Joseph when he was a wide receivers coach, and then a head coach. And now we're already hearing it from Matt Rule. Like these guys, when you're 750 miles away from home or X number of miles away from home, and this is as close as you got to family along with your teammates, and one guy leaves, and especially in college basketball where there's 12 guys, you're just stuck. Then you want to talk about the mental health, and that's when a waiver is going to be granted or at least considered in the NCAA's words. I just don't. I won't ever be in that boat, but that's okay.
And relying on mental health as that fallback, I think, is a dangerous avenue to go because
100%.
you can say a lot of things are mental health related, which there are a lot of concerns out there, but you can, I'm sure, try to prove about anything you can under the guise of mental health.
Absolutely.
The other thing is that might be just as damaging the other way is if there is nothing mental health related and you try to pass something off as that, that's a bad look.
Oh, 100%.
If you don't get your waiver. The other thing I would say to Dave too is one of the biggest problems, and not just in college athletics in general, every step of the process, selfishness, right? Players, I don't think this is as big on them when we use Dave's example. They entered the NBA draft, right? That's their dream. Yeah, there are only 60 guys selected in that NBA draft. I can't blame players for having a good year and testing the waters, which is why I like what the NBA and the NCAA have done to allow guys to go to some testing without hiring an agent and still be able to come back to school. That's good. The problem becomes when the agents get selfish, think they can make a quick buck off a kid.
Yeah.
They're in it for them. It's when coaches say, "Oh yeah, I think you should go. I think you got a chance," because they don't want a guy on their team, and they push him out the door. There are too many bad actors. It's about them and their interests more so than it is the health of the program or the health of the student athlete.
Well, it's exactly what Dave said, the bad advice side of things, right? And when we talk about NIL and this, I've said this since July 1st, 2021 when it came out, and everybody was doing their whole go puff deals or whatever. It's hard in over 50% of the situations to blame the athlete. And we said it last segment. You said it last segment, Austin. It's the NCAA. It's the NCAA.
They had every chance to set up their own rules for it.
And you have had, how long did we know that this was coming? A long time. A long time. Heck, there was businesses in Lincoln by the name of Open Doors that got out on the front of all of this. Why? Because you knew it was coming. And still, we are sitting here 2 years after it's been passed or legal now, after I'd say close to a decade, knowing that this is going to happen eventually, that you're still wiping cake off your face because you were not prepared. You were not ready for this because you think that you can just hand it over and everything's going to be all okay.
They were allowed.
Hey, universities, no, wait, we're not handing it over to you. It's not you.
They were allowed to get away with it for so long, right? When someone finally had enough of it and made the right arguments in court, again, it's something that the NCAA, I think, got a little fat and sassy about its model because it had worked for the NCAA for so long. And again, selfishness. You can understand some of what the NCAA is saying in their arguments, but they have to be genuine about it. The NCAA is still a business. The NCAA is still about making money, whereas we want the NCAA to be about student athlete welfare, putting on the best events for them, making sure their collegiate careers are the best they can be. No, the NCAA is about the NCAA and what it stands for. So whenever you hear something from the NCAA, you have to remember that they're a business in it for itself too. Just think about where people are coming from and how that informs what they say, not just what they say. You'll have your eyes open.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, once again, if you're just now joining us or joined us over the last couple minutes, the reason we're talking about NIL right now is basically because the NCAA announced and sent a memo to college programs saying that they will deny any two-time and won't even consider, just flat out from the get-go, deny a two-time transfer waiver if the coach is leaving, if it's due to a coaching change. So once again, the example used was a guy from Kentucky transfers to Providence. Ed Cooley then leaves to go to Georgetown to now coach, and the guy can't transfer with Ed Cooley or transfer anywhere else. It's not, I mean, whatever it may be, right? You can't transfer back, and so that's kind of the conversation that's been had, and really good input from you guys on the text line. Appreciate you guys. 402-464-5685. Bill and Bennett makes a good point. The NIL rules are so confusing that each player will need a damn lawyer as an agent to explain all their options. And we were just talking about that during the break there, Austin. There's taxes involved. There are making sure companies aren't stiffing you on deals, and there's legality that, frankly, guys my age just don't know. And once again, when your priority as that student athlete, you want it to be school, so great. Your priority is school and football or basketball, whatever sport you play. You're not worried about the legal. You're saying, hey, they offer me $500. Sweet. I'll throw a couple social media posts together. But then you don't know all the fine print. And there's other things there. It's just and that's where a company like Open Doors comes in to help, because they can help you out with a lot of things. And so that's been extremely beneficial for athletes and companies. Because let's be real, business owners don't know how all this works.
No, it's new to them too.
Yes.
That's where, again, ideally, NIL money isn't in the hundreds of $1,000s. So if it is over, $500, $1,000 here or there, you shouldn't really need lawyers. It's, hey, do a couple posts for us. Hey, do a photo shoot for us. It can be a handshake agreement. You show up the day of the time, you get it out of the way, you're good to go. It's a lot of money. It's more than they were making before, but it's not generational. Like, mentioned the Nigel Pack example, $800,000 over 2 years. The $1 million to Yamaleva or Jaden Rashada that we're hearing about. We shouldn't need lawyers involved. If this is really about student athletes' name, image, and likeness, if it's truly about do a photo shoot, if it's truly about sell a jersey, be on the program. Where we need the lawyers is when it gets into tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Millions and millions.
Right.
14 million like Jaden Rashada.
You're in college. I don't know what you're making. I'm going to assume it's not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Unfortunately not. No, it'd be great though.
Yeah, I was lucky to scrape by in the tens of thousands in college with the work I was doing. Again, that's what student athletes, maybe they make a little more because they are so public, and they should.
And that's okay, yes.
But again, why not give them a cut of TV revenue? Why not give them a cut of merchandise sales where you don't need outside contracts? It's just you signed with the university, here's a check for you.
Well, and that's where maybe the university being involved is okay.
Yes.
Right? To a certain extent, but then you're going to have people finding loopholes. There's always going to be loopholes, and as we've said multiple times, you're never going to find the perfect reality or the idealistic approach. Dirty Tony and the boys says this, and I agree with him on this. There needs to be rules about the number of times transferring. Otherwise, you'd have top-tier programs poaching smaller programs as best players. There needs to be some accountability and a commitment at some point, and I am all about that. I'm all about that. This conversation arose simply from when a coach decides to leave that program. I think then you can have a little bit more flexibility for a couple reasons. Obviously the easy one, the low-hanging fruit of I want to follow that coach to the new school if he wants me, or I want to follow to somebody else that I'm more comfortable with, or the more interesting option would be the new coach comes into my current school, doesn't want me, I'm in the portal, and no matter what, I have to sit out.
It's a little funny to me this isn't funny because it stinks for everyone involved kind of way, in that we had waivers for the longest time. You had to apply for eligibility. what did we talk about at the NCAA? Oh, it sucks. It's random. You're throwing darts at the wall. You never know who's going to be eligible and who's not. So we get rid of the waivers. Hey, waivers are gone. Guys can transfer. Freedom of vote. Wait a minute. Let's go back to waivers. The waiver system, I still think, in a limited number of cases, is the way to go. But again, who's adjudicating those? Who's making the decisions? Because the student athletes deserve to be treated on an individual basis because there aren't cases that are the same. The issue is when you treat every student athlete the same, it takes more manpower than the NCAA was willing to put in. If they want to do the system right, they have to invest in the system. They tried to skate by as cheaply as they could on, hey, we're the NCAA, we get the finals, so you can't do anything about it.
Well, and I'm all for, and we talk about accountability, and I would agree wholeheartedly that guys, you cannot allow just an unlimited amount of transfer. I agree with that, Dirty Tony and the boys, and I agree that there needs to be some accountability had because let's say legal troubles, right? Once again, things within the student athlete's control. If you want to treat them like the adult that they technically are at their age, and with the money that they're making, you want to treat them as an adult. I'm all for that. I am all for that. So along those lines, whether it's if they get in legal trouble and they get kicked off the team, I'm okay denying the waiver. Hey man, that's something you can control. With things that are in the student athlete's control, I am okay with having strict restrictions. I'm okay with that. But something, once again, and it's listed on here as outside of the exigent circumstance exigent circumstances of outside of the student athlete's control. And it lists in parentheses specifically physical or sexual assault, things along those lines. And I am not comparing, before the text line comes at me, I am not comparing coaches leaving to that kind of thing, that kind of instance. But if you want to say outside of the student athlete's control, I cannot think of anything that's more outside the student's control than a coach wanting to take more money at a new job. Just the same as athletes wanting to take more money at a different, and that's how they're going to go to school.
Right. Both the players and the coaches want to move up.
Bingo. And why do you want to move up? More eyes. What does more eyes give you? More notoriety, more access, and more money.
Well, it makes your market bigger, right? We talk about market value all the time.
Market and brand value. It's the main I mean, that is the main driver of NIL, right? So let's go ahead and take our final timeout. Strick will join us coming up next as we round out the show, and we'll talk a little Husker football on the other side.
Download our app by searching 93.7 The Tit in your app store to stay in touch and listen all day long wherever you are. More of the happy hour is next on 93 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
At first, I was really nervous and intimidated by a ring. I wasn't sure what I was getting into.
My experience at Starter Heyman was very easy. I felt like I walked out of Starter Heyman with something that was going to make her go wow and say yes.
I love my ring. It is so beautiful. I absolutely love my ring. I get compliments all the time. I always tell them Starter Heyman. Yeah, we would definitely recommend Starter Heyman.
Yeah, it was great.
We're definitely coming back.
Sutter Heyman Builders, Lincoln and Grand Island. SutterHeyman.com.
Hey there.
Hi, honey.
Uh-oh.
Remember we told Jamie and Mike about Liberty First Credit Union? Rate their checking account and car loans are, the amazing service we get, and how we love being members?
Yeah.
Well, they took us. Jamie said how easy it was to move all their accounts and become members. Now they say they're banking with at Liberty First Credit Union.
Learn more about being a member at libertyfirstcu.com. Liberty First Credit Union. Banking with purpose. Member NCUA.
You finally finished your man cave in the brand new, huge TV, and all of your collector's items. You're ready for football season. You were so excited until one bad rain and it is all ruined. Don't risk a flooded basement and countless dollars in damages when it can be avoided. Call John Henry's today for a free stump test for your home.
435-5555. John Henry's Plumbing.
Hey, it's Nicklin Hames from Nebraska Volleyball. I hate wasting time in practice, and I want to help you stop wasting your time when you're looking for an electrician. High Electric has been serving the area for over 30 years. And commercial properties. They are experts in everything like remodeling, new additions, hot tub installation, and more. And they take jobs from Beatrice to Omaha and all towns, big or small, in between. Call them today at 402-466-6606 or learn more at high-electric.com.
Action Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric is the call I make when I have a need for plumbing services. Whether it's for my home or office, if I need a repair to a water heater, softener, or even my garbage disposal, I know I can count on Action to help. In one simple call, their amazing customer service team promptly solves a service call, often getting to my needs within a day. Action delivers honest, quality services we can count on. To learn more, visit actionlincoln.com.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Mostly cloudy skies, cool conditions here for our Thursday with a high of around 48. Winds out of the north-northeast at around 10 to 15. Partly cloudy tonight with the low dropping down to around 31. We'll see a chance of scattered showers tomorrow with highs up to around 53. I'm meteorologist Tim Wright for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Are you looking for a solid, stable career in assembly, CNC machining, or injection molding? We got you covered. Hi, Bob Williams, HR Director for Garner Industries, a world-class manufacturer with a 70-year history right here in Lincoln. And I just listed some great career opportunities that you can find by logging into GarnerIndustries.com. If you want top pay, excellent benefits, flexible work hours, and the opportunity to work in a clean, modern, air-conditioned facility with great people, contact me today by applying online at GarnerIndustries.com.
If you're not sure what your evening plans are and want to change things up, look no further than Craft Axe Throwing. Whether for a date night, an evening with friends, or even a private party, you're sure to make memories at Craft Axe Throwing. Trained instructors help make things easy to understand, and the stock makes it a great hangout spot. With 13 throwing lanes, there's plenty of opportunity to reserve your spot today. Choose the Lincoln location at craftaxe.com to book a lane or call 402-802-9696. Craft Axe Throwing at 18th and N.
Rico here with HIS Auto Care at 70th and Van Dorn, letting you know HIS is a great place to bring your vehicle for service. With superior service, bumper to bumper, we'll treat your vehicle like it's your mother's. Doesn't get any better than that. So 402-8934 HIS Auto will make you glad you did. 5% off, mention this ad, and for sure your mother will be proud you called. 402-488-8934 HIS Auto Care, 7th and Van Dorn. God bless you.
Finally, a good reason to have a smart house. Just say, Alexa, play 93.7 The Ticket, and we'll magically start playing. How's it work? Nobody knows. Don't ask questions.
This is Jay Foreman. I wore gear to protect my health on the football field, and I'm protecting it now by staying up to date with the bivalent COVID vaccine. Get up to date while it's still free and stay protected. Learn more at healthylincoln.org.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KNTK FM First, 93.7 The Ticket. You're listening to the Happy Hour with Nick and Enrique Alvarez Clary.
This isn't the real Caesar's Palace, is it?
What do you mean?
Did Caesar live here?
No.
I didn't think so.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We're back here on time on a Thursday. We welcome in the Husker Hall of Famer, Eric Strickland. Hello, Stricky.
Nick, you're across the way from me.
I am.
Oh, my goodness.
Did you not look up the entire time?
No.
Yeah, Rico's not here.
I know, it's unbelievable.
I know.
It's so unusual not to hear.
Yeah. So
I took 4 years of Spanish. Can I say it today?
Did you take it in high school, or did you take it in college?
I took 4 in high school, and I took one class. I thought I was going to mind Spanish.
Did you take Spanish classes?
I did very well. I actually, I can speak conversationally.
Oh,
more
nice.
Muy bien.
More than what I probably could speak.
Nice. That's good. Yeah. No, I enjoyed the Spanish class. Those were fun. Anyway, Husker football concluded day number 3 of spring practice. I'm sure you guys will talk a little bit about this coming up on your guys' show as well. But I'll say this as somebody that was there and watched it in person, you can tell what guys came from Georgia.
That obvious already?
Like, Tariq Gilbert is a dude. Like, he and Jacob Hood, although he's not playing, he is bigger than everybody. And, Teddy Prohaska is wearing a green jersey, so maybe not height-wise, but in terms of size and I mean
Sherman?
Sherman as well, but I'm saying in terms of, like, thick and just built, you can tell, especially in, like, the lower body, the thighs, the legs, you can just tell that, like, a guy like Tariq Gilbert has been to both LSU and Georgia.
Yeah, so you do notice this.
Yeah, you do, and, like, Thomas Pidoni's now up there too because, I mean, Thomas but in terms of product on the field, like, I after today, I walked away going, "I am pumped to see" I hope Tariq gets on the field because I wanna see him on the field.
I mean, I said that when we were doing a breakdown on the block. I said he's one of the ones that I wanna keep an eye on.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about different players that we would like to kinda see, and he's one of the ones. The reason I say that is I'm reminded of just how good tight ends have been over the years at Nebraska,
Yeah.
right? How well they've been used, and I remembered one specifically that I envision when I think about Tariq is Johnny Mitchell.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just that type of athlete, fat. Like, Johnny Mitchell was before his time.
Mhm.
Like, if he would've, been around towards the latter half of what we started to see with your, Gonzalez's and the likes of those types of guys. And I just don't know. I don't know if injuries kinda killed him a little bit. I mean, he did make it, but I would have loved to see him in a modern type of, because back then it was very pro style.
Well, and that's what's gonna be interesting, like, I'm not sure we have no clue what personnel packages are gonna look like with this team and under Matt Rule, but we do know about 2 tight ends, right? We've heard that a couple of times from various coaches that they wanna involve 2 tight ends at a time, and that's a good combination, in a room that I'm still not sure what to think of. With Fidone healthy and being able to actually see him practice, I think that's a big part of it, right? Because every single time we've been to practice throughout his career, he's been running stadiums. Like, I remember watching him last year, and I would see him up on the west side below the press boxes running up and down the stadium steps because that's all he could do. He was rehabbing. And so it's like to actually be able to see him out there and see his size and him catch passes and him run, right? And at full strength, there's a little bit more of I don't wanna say comfort in my head, but just, okay, this is what the tight end room is gonna look like. And you still have Borkature, who's probably the most experienced guy, in terms of on field at Nebraska in that room. And then you have the spring story of A.J. Rollins still there. But it's like really at the top there, it's Tariq Gilbert and Thomas Fidone. And I would say that I feel a little bit better at this moment than I did maybe 24 hours ago.
And those guys playing up to their potential gives Nebraska the best tight end room in the conference.
Yeah, I would agree.
Up to their potential in the conference. Now, you got to get it out of them. You got to get them to that level. But to your point too, Nick, it's nice to have some of those guys that look like that, that have that potential. How do you build more? Because having one MJ Sherman, one Gilbert, and one Hood is not enough.
What I would ask, is it impossible to get the guys that look like them here at Nebraska? Or turn guys into ones that look like him?
That's the thing.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I should have mentioned.
Yes, you have to be able to turn guys into that because you're not going to get guys that are ready-made built like that at Nebraska unless, you get super lucky, you do the best recruiting job of your tenure. You're not going to bring in guys that look like that from day one. You have to be able to build them. That's always been the case at Nebraska.
And that's something we're going to talk about next segment around 225 time frame because there's been a flip. There's been a change in what Ohio State used to be able to acquire. And now Michigan is kind of starting to go into their backyard and pull some of the best of what they have to offer. So how does Nebraska get to that point? And that's kind of where I think we're going to dig into a little bit and get some interaction on the text line as well. And I think about that. And that's why it's so important that we're seeing now what Rule said when he stood in front of us when he first came of how he wants to get it done.
So definitely stay tuned for that. I don't know if you guys saw that scouts at Ohio State's pro day yesterday salivating over Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah,
and he's still got 1 year left.
Can't touch him.
I mean, just salivating over. I
He's
can't
a
remember the
specimen,
exact
too.
quote, but it was just like
he's a specimen.
This guy is set. I mean,
We
imagine
heard the same thing with Smith and Jigba last year.
Imagine knowing that. Like, I just got to take care of what I can. I just got to take care of my business, and I'm going to be a first round pick.
That part.
Just take care of my business.
Well, they
Kyle
said
McCord, don't screw this up for me.
Exactly.
They said Cam Newton kind of had a nice little showing.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's going to.
He's better than all 32 quarterbacks. Just ask him. Just ask him. All right, that'll do it for us on the happy hour. Shout out to Austin for joining me. Tomorrow we talk Big Junior Day with Zach Carpenter of Inside Nebraska to preview the big recruiting weekend. Stick around on the block with Stricken Austin coming up next on the ticket.
Rosie Sports Bar and Grill. Open for lunch and dinner at P or at 15